Let's talk about fish. Fish. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. Fish.
Yeah! Gracious. We're here to talk about fish. And that may lead us anywhere at all. One never knows. Lord, I think the madness is setting in. A little later, I'm going to give you a challenge. I don't know if I can handle it right now. Let's see who's here, because that's a whole lot more interesting than anything else that we can possibly be doing. Okay, so we're going to, there's something funny about StreamYard. I can't type. I'm okay typing. I thought it was the keyboard, but it's not. It is the platform. Anyway, I'm over here now on YouTube, so I can see everybody. And we're just going to do some hellos. Natural Aquariums stopped in early, and I asked the question, and they barely stepped out. I hope they'll be back. I want to know if this is naturalaquariums.com, a website that is remarkable, beautiful, really significant, and one that I very much would like to be a part of. But we haven't heard back from them. Joshua Miller, hello, hello. Utah, hi there. Mark Croswell, hello, Mark. David Samsel. Ogris Cornell, hello, Ogris. Emily, dear Emily, I made it, she said, currently trapped at the grocery store, waiting for the rain to lighten up. Delighted to see you, Emily. Jimmy Pease. Hi, Jimmy Pease. Oh, here we go again. Tim Lattiser. Lidoser. I was saying Lidocore because I can't spell. Lidoser. Good evening and blessed Sunday to you. Ruben. Hi, Ruben. Roman Sharrock. Hello, Roman Sharrock. Nice to see you. Love that song about fish, says Roman. Don't we all? We need to, at some point, get Lee back over here and do some more tunes for us. He's got a few others that I really ought to play. I will. I'll play them. They're really fun. Arkansas Boy 45. Got on Discord under a different username, and I need to change it here. That will be fun trying to figure it out. Arkansas Boy. Yeah, there was something funny. I think I know who you are. We're going to make you up. I'm going to turn you blue, Arkansas Boy. Danny Wish. Hi, Danny. Charlene here. Heyman. Hello, Charlene. Nice to see you, dear. Mary Page says, hey, everyone, I'm lurking. Got a house full of company, so didn't get a chance to join you guys tonight. I hope you all had a blessed weekend. Yeah, her family pulled a surprise birthday party on her. So she's attending a birthday. I don't think it's hers. I don't think it is. But it's a big family birthday party. So she will be out of pocket this evening. I'll cut the top of my head off here. Hello, Aqua Negro IG. Hello, Aqua Negro IG. Ben Tamburo wants to know, can I have a planted tank with no filter? Can I? Yes, sir. Yes, you may. You may. You may have a planted tank with no, if that is your wish and that is your desire, yes, you certainly can. The deeper question, of course, is how many plants and how many fish? And is it a deep substrate? So you have to control the number of fish. You can't have it really loaded because it'll put too much stress on the water volume. The water volume, even with a lot more plants, it holds a lot more oxygen because the plants are creating it as well as the natural, what's it called? Exchange, the natural exchange of O2 and CO2 at the water surface. All a filter really does is move the water around so you get a better exchange. But if you got a lot of plants, then you've got a lot of oxygen. You just kind of have to play with it to see where it maxes out. When the fish start coming to the top to breathe, you know you got too many in there. So at that point, cut back. But you may well never reach that point. With a lot of plants, it's amazing how many fish you can have. And Danny says no. Ryan is not naturalaquariums.com. Okay. Thank you for that, Danny. You sure can, Ben, especially if you have a tank full of plants. There we go. Right, says Mary. Jeff Pasternak, happy day. Happy day to you. And Danny says, I have 3 of them. Planted tanks with no air. I've got a couple. Well, I have a little bit of air. Really doesn't amount to much. But this one, that has no air. That pretty full of plants. Let's get a little close up. Such a neat thing. You do. We want to go without knocking everything over here if we can. Look at that. Got my neat piece of driftwood there. Not a lot of fish in there right now. I'm repopulating it. Sultan, thanks for all the knowledge. Cleared pretty. Ricky, my betta of ick. Wonder. Delighted to hear it. Somebody called me earlier. Oh, I guess it was on Discord. Somebody was having a problem with flashing, and they thought it might have been something. Tori finally confirmed for me it was parasites. And I suggested to them they increase their, I knew what it was. They had some rams in there that were not doing well, but it really wasn't warm enough. It wasn't bad. It was 82. But I suggested they kick it up to 86. We'll see if they do. With a kind of presenting problem, my hunch is they had it, and it might have been early enough stage that there were no white spots visible yet. Texas Fish. Hello, Texas Fish. Big City Bettis is here. Hi. Oh, you wanted to come up this evening. Let me do a link. We're going to get Big City Bettis up here. Mary is going to be all upset because she can't be here. Uh-oh. There we go. I think I got the link. Yes. Let me pin the link. And if you want to just come on up, we will chat away, Big City Bettis. Danny, my last name is pronounced Weshy with a long E sound at the end. Weshy. Wesh. I left out the E. Weshy. Thank you for that. I do prefer to pronounce people's names properly. I really do prefer it. And I don't at all mind being corrected. In fact, I wish if I'm saying your name wrong, please do correct me because I don't want to get it wrong. Brian Carroll. Hi there. T-Bone. T-Bone is here. Amber is here.
Hello.
Hi there.
How's my volume?
A little loud.
Okay, is that better?
That's better.
Okay. Finally.
Yes. Happy to see you.
Yes, it took long enough, but here I am.
So when is the big move?
The 24th. So
Of this month.
yes.
Wow.
I know.
You gonna be ready?
Yes. I
Good
feel
girl.
like I'm getting prepared. I took today and actually let me see if I can turn it. I moved all my betta spawns that were in these tanks. This is
Oh my.
20 highs, and I put them in tubs because come breakdown day, it's going to be a lot easier to break down and move a damp tub than it is a wet 20 high.
Right.
So,
Oh, good for you.
getting there.
And you're living where right now?
Burlington, Vermont. So almost.
You're gonna have a long drive.
It's going to be 1,900 miles, so 20 hours, I think.
At least. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that. I lived in Northfield, Massachusetts. I don't know if you know where that is. That's right in where the three states, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Mass come together. Right where the three of them meet. That's where I lived there for a couple of years. Long time ago.
I must say, New England, it's funny. I'm researching the weather in Florida because I'm an avid gardener and I'm like, what's the climate difference? How do I grow things? The temperature extremes in Vermont, of all places, compared to Florida, our high last year, our record high was like 109. Jacksonville hit 102.
Right.
And our coldest winter day was negative 52 at one night, and Jacksonville is 45. I'm like, wow, growing's just going to be a lot easier. There's no real transition because we have.
That's the big difference is summers last longer.
Yes.
Which means the heat lasts longer. So for gardening, that means you're planting in the fall for a spring crop or even a winter crop. Or you plant early in the winter or by February at the latest, because your latest crop is going to be April, May.
Yeah.
July, August, September are just, it's too hot to grow anything.
Yeah. I'm looking into some plastic greenhouses for down the line and doing like a wind tunnel effect where I open all the flaps, both doors, and have a fan pushing and one pulling, because that might change the game a little bit as far as heat goes, but I don't know. It's going to be fun.
You'll probably need to do a shade, some kind of a shade for just for the summer months.
Likely.
But greenhouses are wonderful down here because you can keep stuff at like 60 degrees all through the winter.
Yeah,
which is real nice. You're going to love it.
It's going to be very interesting not fighting the frost.
Yeah, exactly. Never get front. Now, you're a bit further north from me, so you're going to get a little more in the way of frost. You might even get a little snow on the ground once in a great while. But
I don't
by and
know.
large, yeah.
I
It
was
won't
gonna
be
say I
like,
don't know if I can handle snow. I'm just not used to it. You know, didn't spend however many years with, oh gosh, I can remember as a child, there were some winters that you'd open the front door to go to the bus and it was just taller than you. And you're like, Mom.
right. I lived in northern Maryland for a year in my first grade, and we had a snowfall like that, where we had to tunnel out.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember my dad took his truck with a plow and just drove across the lawn to make
Right.
bus so big. We didn't even get a snow day.
I know. Down here, if it rains hard, you get a snow day.
Yeah, up here they're like, no, because you're gonna have about 20 snow days. We're gonna wait.
Right. Well, you're gonna love it. I'm excited about your coming, and I want to get up and visit you and take you out collecting.
I would love that.
That's what I love the most about Florida.
Not to interrupt you, but that is the thing I'm most excited for, because I've gone cast net fishing for just like shiners and darters in Vermont, but I've never gone like proper dip net collecting. So I'm very excited for that. And apparently the St. John River butts the back of the property, according to the realtor. So
Interesting, yeah.
I might be able to.
As you get further east on the St. John's, it becomes increasingly brackish.
Yes.
But you will have blue crabs coming up to your dock.
Wow, that'll be fun.
You'll be able to, you'll have to learn you how to eat blue crabs.
That's another thing that I'm excited to explore, having grown up on Lake Champlain and all the different aquatic plants and fish that we have. We are limited when it comes to nano species. And Florida, from what I've been reading, like the list of invasives alone on the nano spectrum is ridiculous. So, oh gosh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, near anything will survive. So it's kind of amazing. Somebody made the comment that you can find a population of any animal you're interested if you know where to look in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably pretty close to true. There are herds of wild elephants in Florida.
That I did not know.
It's absolutely true.
Really? No.
Yeah, no, it's true.
I'm questioning you because I'm so gullible that people have pulled so many. Really, though?
The animal, the ringling, all of the ringling elephants are in a herd on a 50,000 acre ranch in Central Florida, living wild.
Wow.
They're being monitored and cared for, but they're living wild. And that herd is being added to as other animals come out of various private hands and public zoos and whatnot.
Interesting. No, I'm used to raccoons, skunks, even bear, just like wandering through, because growing up we lived very rural. But when I was looking at this property, I asked the realtor, I love the fact that it's fully enclosed with a chain link fence, but why even the driveway? And he goes, well, there's a gator crossing just up the road. And I'm like, okay. He's like, you don't want one of those wandering in your yard. And I think he expected it to scare me, but I was just like, oh, that's an option? That's spectacular. So
Yeah, except in the spring. In the spring, you want to be careful because they're busy with other matters and don't like to be disturbed.
no, much like most animals, if you think about it.
So what brings you to Florida? Why are you making the move?
Well, Florida's always been on my list of places to kind of try out. In my early 20s, I spent probably 4 months in California and discovered that it's absolutely not for me. I did 3 years in New York, moved around all the different boroughs. It was like, nope, still not, because I can't garden. There's no It's amazing how in New York City, the only nature is in Central Park. And it's the only park I've ever been to where it's not perfectly curated. They're like, no, these people need some trees. They need a little section of woods.
Yeah.
So combine, looking for a place that I want to settle where I can garden, I can farm, and also fish, and the lure of outdoor tubbing. Florida's been kind of a goal for many years, and it just forced moving situation and looking at finances and going, it's so expensive here. It'd be cheaper to just make the move and go and do it. So
Florida is cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what your lifestyle is. It's also maybe one of the more expensive places to live, depending on what your lifestyle is. But a lot of people live here on limited income.
Mm-hmm. I've worked professionally as a chef pretty much my whole life. So I got a job down there at a bakery. And as far as my lifestyle, I'm kind of like an 80, 90-year-old woman. Like, I garden, I deal with my fish tanks, I stay home and read, I play with my cats. So I'm not too worried about expenses. I'm just happy to have gardening space.
Yeah, really.
And
you're going to be working in a bakery.
Yeah.
Nice. What do you do? What do you do?
Well, I specialize in sourdough breads and French pastries, but I can do pretty much the full spectrum.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I've always loved doing it, but typically you make more money and have more job availability doing just a chef job. So I've done pretty much every position in a kitchen you can do, but I'm just grateful I found a place that does sourdough breads and had an opening. So
nice.
Can't beat that.
So you're bringing your starter culture with you?
Yes, I actually just pulled it. I had it in the freezer for like a year and pulled it out and got it going a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, yes,
really?
I'll get to do this again. Yeah.
Nice.
One thing I'm extremely excited about is when I moved into this house, I bought I'm looking out because the yard's out there. I bought 9 100-gallon Rubbermaid tubs and like a dozen or so 20-gallon, just like.
Oh, they're pretty good size, yeah.
Yes, and now I have options for those that are more than 4 months.
Right. Well, that'll be fun. You're gonna love that. Tubbing is wonderful down here. There's so many natives. I have tubs right now with Elisoma, Everglade, and I think Okefenokee. So we're hoping they're going to get going, so I'll be able to pull some out this fall.
Nice. No, the Everglade Killies are one that I've always wanted to work with, but when you order them, you typically get either really subdominant males or all females, in my experience.
You haven't ordered them from me.
Well, fair.
And you need to, because I'm going to teach you how to catch it.
Perfect. And Aquabid, my God, the number of years I've spent on Aquabid buying native fish and paying a lot of money for them, and now I'm looking at all the places you can collect them. Like, what a joke! What a joke! It just threw my money away. Lesser Killies, 5. Yeah. A group of 5 is going for like $40.
Oh, the Formosa, just everywhere, and they're wonderful. The only one you don't want is the damn boosie. The damn boosie. You know what?
Not a fan.
It's a mean little fish. Yeah, they beat up everybody.
It's kind of interesting how when you first get into the hobby or first start looking into species, it says, oh, they're great community fish. And then you buy them, like, I don't know, one that comes to mind is emperor tetras, diamond tetras. People say, oh, they're great community fish. You put them in and they are beating the crap out of everything else in the emperor tetras. I have had one male that was more vicious than any red jewel I've ever owned in my life.
Oh, you'll be able to catch plenty of jewels too. The water down here is chock full of jewels everywhere.
Oh,
and it's the same problem though. they're just so aggressive. But they're
Mhm.
when you get a dominant male that's grown out in sunlight, it's just stunning.
They
Really.
are.
Yeah.
I have a pair going right now, and it never ceases to amaze me how good they are at parenting. But then you look at the waterways they come from, and it kind of makes you go, oh, okay.
All of the cichlids, right?
And they're
Yeah.
from wide open areas of the Amazon, or not Amazon, Congo, right?
Congo, that's right.
And
Yeah,
it means bigger fish, faster waters. So they're actually a fish that when people are just getting into cichlids want something to breed, I always tell them red jewels because it's so rewarding.
Yeah, jewels and convicts. Convicts are so easy to do as well.
Jewels are easier to sell though. And when you end up with 500 fish at the end,
They shouldn't be, but they are.
no. It's because they're beautiful. It's also why licorice gourami, half the species out there are $20 for a pair.
Oh my
And then you get them in blackwater and you're like, wow.
I know. I've had. They're not coming in right now. They haven't been coming in since COVID, and they're still not coming in because nobody's really breeding them. They're all wild caught, and they have to come out of Borneo, and Borneo is shutting down in a lot of ways. So there probably are some fish there we're not going to we may never see again, or if they do, they're going to be real pricey.
Borneo, I have a number of guys who work because I used to work more extensively with wild bettas. And I got into that mainly by finding people who were collecting and breeding and Google Translate. And making friends and asking a million questions. And I have two collectors over in Borneo who told me that they have actually been widespread crop spraying. And that's another reason why not a lot of things are coming out of Borneo, because a lot of things are dying. And right now the government's kind of trying to keep everything closed. One gentleman, I tried to contact him for another fish tuber who was looking for wild-caught macrostoma. And I contacted him, and he said the entire mountain river system that he had been working with was closed off right now by the government.
Well,
they're trying to contain all of it from kind of hitting the fan and going public because it's
what they really need to be doing is trying to figure out how to get these fish bred in captivity. That will protect the species. Otherwise, they're going to lose the species. It'll just be gone.
I've actually worked before with a handful of species of wild bettas that are extinct in the wild, and when it came time to trying to find people who A, knew what they were, B, wanted to even consider keeping them at the pH it takes, because part of why a lot of Asiatic species are so critically endangered is because maintaining pH below 6.0 in captivity is tricky. And that's an understatement.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a lot of the issue, but if more people were to get into it, and not to knock CARES, but if CARES had an actual proper network for breeders where we could register, we could say what species, what locale, what parameters we're keeping, because that's also critical. I've had some wild species where, they needed to be at 5.0 in order for the eggs to be viable. Once the male had the eggs in the bubble nest, I pulled the male and I actually started raising the pH every couple hours. I would raise it up a little bit with water that I had soaked with crushed coral. And those fry not only survived, but the adults were able to breed in 6.5. And I didn't get to continue it with them, but I feel like the parameters fish are raised in is so critical to what they maintain their slime coat within, and therefore how they can breed and produce eggs properly. I think that's another key is going to be pH conversion, because it's not something a lot of people talk about, but if we think about it, if the thing that makes a species difficult to keep and breed is the pH factor, and we make that more approachable and less of a steep, gradient to make, I think more people would be willing to work them and breed them and keep them. So that's
Yeah.
what I wanted to make.
You'll be able to meet Andre Ryan when you get down here. He's one of the leading fish breeders in the country in breeding rare and endangered or very difficult to breed fish. He's able to maintain pH he has maintained pH as low as 3.
Oh yeah, it can be done.
Typically does it at 5.
Betta vertigala in particular, they're the smallest species of the wild bettas. They're about 1/2 inch to 3/4, and they require 3.5 or they die. Their slime coat, you can watch it melt off in a sheet in the water, and within hours it's fungus and death. Doesn't matter how much salt you use, doesn't matter how many tannins. And for low pH, I've actually found peat moss combined with worm castings and Amazonia. I don't know if you're familiar with the ADA brand. It's so expensive, but if you're trying to do a low pH tank, it's really good stuff. That combined with botanicals, I find is a good combination. But from there, you have to know how to do the water changes and maintain it. So what I used to keep a water reservoir with about probably 15 or 16 inches of catappa leaves in the bottom and mapani wood soaking. And that was the water I used with rainwater to change them out. And I saw maybe 0.2 of a pH swing, which is nothing. I mean, that's rainfall in nature. So it can be done. It's just finicky. And then you find yourself putting so much work into maintaining low pH. You're like, well, I might as well get more low pH. And then the next thing you know, you have no free time because you're just soaking leaves all the time.
You raised an interesting point when you said you bred the licorice in a low pH and the adults then spawned at 6.5. Did I understand you to say that?
Those were wild bettas, but I mean, I probably could have accomplished the same thing with. I honestly think any Asiatic Anabantid can be converted pH-wise that way. They're so similar. It's just
that's what's happened to so many of the fish in captivity. They've been raised in water that is easier to sustain, which may not be their native water. But once you get past that F1, F2, F3 stage, they adapt very nicely to a higher pH.
They do. They do. And I would love to see a study done on how a fish's slime coat develops throughout its embryonic stage to maybe like a few months, because I think there's some key in the bacteria that forms in it that's really the component to breaking that kind of code. But
that's interesting. We have a lab down here that studies those kinds of issues. It's called the Aquaculture lab in Ruskin, Florida. They work with farmers to determine disease and treatment, but also to develop techniques for breeding certain kinds of fish. Years ago, they did a lot of work on the clown loach and got a number of farmers started breeding clown loaches. These days, they're working more extensively with saltwater because there's a big push to try to get saltwater fish spawning in.
I was about to make a bad joke and say now they're working to stop people from breeding clown loaches because they're everywhere in great abundance. I must say, clown loaches.
Well, they're extinct now in the Yangtze.
Are they?
In their native habitat. Yeah.
I did not know that.
The dams have done that.
I know it's going to sound really girly, and I don't mind, and I'm someone who doesn't mind snakes, worms, none of that, but loaches just, give me the heebie-jeebies. I can't.
Really? That's funny.
Yes, until they
Even
hit that
all loaches?
most loaches until they hit that adult size where they kind of just look like a floating hot dog. I don't know if you've ever seen.
Funny.
That's what they look like, because they just eat and eat, and they almost become like scavengers waiting.
Well, yeah, they are. That's true. Funny. Well, we've been going on and on here for half an hour. It's been fun talking with you. Let's look at the chat a little bit and see who's here and what they're doing. Are you on it? Do you see the chat?
I see the chat, and I'm now reading it.
I'm up at 539 Texas Fish, talking about leaf litter. I don't know if you've been following my channel at all. We've been pushing leaf litter of late as a way of creating a food web, which is something that is enormously effective for bettas, for small fish, particularly fish like bettas, because it creates a native food population.
Licorice gourami, I could not successfully raise up fry until I started aging out my tanks for a couple of months with botanicals and letting it just get slimy, but like the healthy slimy.
Right. Let's see, who else is here? Danny likes my tank. Do you have anything still set up?
I'm gonna break down the ones that are in this room, and then I have the Bashir tank, because that's probably going to be the last thing I break down. My 90 I need to break down, and then I have 165 in the bedroom, and that's about it.
Wow.
I have a couple of tanks set up because I have fish that I need to ship to my ex, and as soon as those are gone, I'm going to finish breaking that down, and I'll be down to tubs.
Now, you're bringing all your tanks with you, right?
I'm bringing enough to get started. So I'm bringing my 90 it's funny because a few people have said, you can just buy new tanks. You can just get new tanks. And I'm like, yeah, but I could also put the tanks in the U-Haul with stuff I would have put that's lightweight and would have gone into boxes. I can just put it into my tanks and use them as storage. Lee!
Look who's here.
Oh, we're matching.
He's sweet. Look at that. Hi there.
Hello.
We were talking about you earlier.
Were you?
Yeah, somebody said they love your songs. And we've been playing a couple of them. We need some more music, Lee. Master Lee.
I'm a brilliant singer, I am.
I know you are.
Talking about
I am. These things.
Couldn't be mine. Hey, look, I've shaved my beard off.
I see. You look like a cue ball. I didn't recognize you.
I think I can't bear to see my face in a mirror.
I dare say. I don't think I would be able to. I was thinking about that today. I can't do it. I can't go back.
You're brilliant, Lou. You're brilliant, Lou. I'm sorry I miss you a lot, and
I miss you. I absolutely do.
There's some stuff going on, and
well, I know. It's okay.
I can't keep up, dear fellow.
It's okay.
Thank you.
You'll be back when you can, and we'll be delighted to have you.
I feel like I missed the memo on Hawaiian shirts.
Oh, look at that. Right. Well, you'll be.
Tell me.
You haven't moved down yet. You know, Lee lives in a fairly tropical environment, actually. He gets that. Yeah, he really does. They have palm trees where he lives. They get that what's it called? The Gulf Stream flows right up to just south of England. Keeps the weather warm.
We like global warming where I live.
I do too. I love global warming. I think it's so important. We're keeping
Bring
the
it
ice,
on.
keeping the
I need
ice
a
age.
suntan. I need a suntan. I need a
Right,
suntan.
right.
Mate, you called me a cue ball.
I
I'm
did.
blue again. I'm always blue. I don't know why I'm blue.
You need to wear a hat. Right. So you know Amber's going to come down here to Florida.
Oh, lucky you.
I'm excited.
Not so much. I think he's already regretting offering to take me collecting after the last 30
No,
minutes.
heavens no. I'm looking forward to it. I can't do as much as I would like to do because I'm just not as strong as I used to be. What?
Amber,
Yeah.
would you like to come and visit me too?
Really?
I don't know if they're fish collecting. That's the real
Right.
question.
You can call it whatever you like. That's
Oh,
fine.
God. We do nothing but trouble. Nothing but trouble.
Hadn't changed.
I'm messing about. You're lovely. And I'm just messing about, darling. I'm happily
I
married.
know.
Yeah.
I know. I know.
Sucks to be you. Sucks to be you. I'm happily married.
Now.
I know, but you still got me to blush, so well
For the
done.
fish. For the fish. For the
Bravo.
fish. For the fish. For the fish.
Yeah.
For the fish.
What?
For the fish. 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 Can I have a timeout, please?
You bet. Thank you.
Give us a timeout.
Oh,
Give us a timeout.
All right. There.
Oh, he is so much fun.
Yeah, he can stick his fun in it though, which he's done more than once. I'm sure you've heard stories.
Oh, yes. I've been lurking in the chat for many a stream.
Let's see, I don't see anything here particularly exciting. Oh, there is something I wanted to mention. We started doing a Discord channel 3 or 4 months ago, and we've had enough people in there that it's begun to turn into something really interesting.
Nice.
We have, for example, you've been in, I think, haven't you?
Oh, no.
A while back.
I'm going to sound so old. I've never used Discord. I don't actually know how Discord works.
Well, just click on the link and it'll take you in. Come visit, really. It's great fun. And there are a number of people who are talking about and doing betas, but they don't have the right kind of mentorship. And that's part of what we're doing is setting up ways for people to be able to be mentored in various aspects of the hobby. We also have Stephen, Stephen, the biologist. He's in there about every day solving problems. We have an emergency channel that he runs that people come in with problems to be solved. That's a fun thing. It's broad. It's broadly based. Lots going on and a lot of fun. And I think there's some ladies there who you would adore and would adore you. Some of whom you probably already know. So check it out. I'll bug you about that.
And, on that note, it's funny for being probably the most common starter fish in the hobby. It's funny how few people actually understand proper betta care. Not funny, but interesting, I guess.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think
it's true in the hobby in general.
Mhm.
The hobby in general, very, very few people with tanks really understand how to keep a tank. They really do.
Yeah, it's funny because I very much abide by the Wallstead method. 90% of the tanks that I ran in this house, I mean, easily 90% of the tanks I was running in this house had no filter, no air, no heater, because I don't know how you feel about this, but actually let me pick your brain. I don't like using tank heaters. I prefer heating the room if I have to, because I feel like the fluctuation that you get is perfectly natural and it's important. And I've had so many people argue that fish need a consistent to what I assume you agree that a natural
Well,
fluctuation.
yeah, unless the fluctuation becomes a problem. I normally do that, and I just discovered ick in the last day or two in one of my tanks. So I had to put a heater in to get the temperature up, get rid of the ick. But it was too much fluctuation. I've got an air conditioning vent in this little area, and it can drop it down precipitously. So yeah, if you got the right kind of environment, then it's certainly preferable to heat the room rather than the tank. The other issue is that the heaters go up, they crap out and kill fish, and that happens routinely.
They either stop working right and they go too hot, or they die and you have no idea and the temperature drops.
Yeah, exactly. Until something gets sick, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's certainly preferable.
But no, as I was saying, I run mainly Wallstead, and I read Diana's book. I loved the concept, but then about 4 years now, I went to Lucas's LRB's house and walked around and talked to him and sat and looked at his tanks and kind of saw it actually in practice on multiple systems that were clearly flourishing. And I went home and I think I had about 30 species of wild that at that point, and I'd only bred 2. And I went home, pulled all of my sponge filters out, had a panic attack that night, was like, everything's going to be dead, kept getting up and checking them. And by the morning, 5 pairs had spawned. And I was like, what the heck? And it kept going like that. Within about 2 months, every species had spawned, and I was like, I'm done with filters. I'm done. Unless it needs...
Fish like bettas do not like moving water.
But I've done it with so many fish with great success. I have shellies. I have a colony of multis right now that are doing amazingly with no flow, no filter. Red jewels, gobies, rainbow fish, tetras, rasbora, multiple species of epistos, my pipefish, bashirs, Oscars, I think live bears, I think everything you can keep, like within reason, that's pretty common. I've tried no filter.
We'll get you going with pygmy seahorses.
Oh, I've never done saltwater because it seems intimidating, but I've had so many people tell me that once you actually grasp the concept, it's like I've done brackish.
It's no different. Let me show you something. I've got 2 saltwater tanks here that I set up. Oh, I guess it's been nearly 3 months ago. These were freshwater tanks that I brought over from my shop, and I did an experiment. I do deep substrate. My substrate is typically a minimum of 3 inches. Usually it's 4 to 5. There's 3. I do dirt, Wallstead, and then I cap it with sand. I add supplements in the dirt to keep it going until the system can catch up. But look at this. This tank, I left the old freshwater substrate in, capped it with 2 inches of sand, and loaded it with rocks. This one, I took all the substrate out, put brand new substrate in that I gathered from the Gulf and water from the Gulf. It's got algae in it, and the water is somewhat green, but it's not nearly as well balanced as this tank.
And how long How long has that one been set up compared
About
to?
both the same, both the same length of time. And I've done really nothing. I put a few fish in. I've only been able to get out and collect one time, so there's not a whole lot in here, but it's at a stage where I can put a great deal more in. You know, I did this knowing what was going to happen, just to prove a point, and now I'm stuck with something I really don't want. I mean, I can probably get it cleared up, but I thought it was just really interesting. The substrate, it's freshwater bacteria, freshwater dirt that I've capped with sand and just added salt water to, native salt water. This is sand that I collected from the beach, actually from in the water. So it had life in it. It's salt water from the Gulf. So the only difference between these two is the old substrate in that one. Freshwater substrate.
Wow.
And the only thing I've got for filtration is power heads. Now with saltwater, you've got to have moving water.
Hmm.
There's no alternative. Well, I say that, and yeah, the reality is with the seahorses, you don't need a lot. They need a fair amount of cover, so you need to get plants growing in it, and then a small power head that just kind of circles the water, so they don't take a lot of water movement either. A lot of the fish that live in seagrass beds are living in water that doesn't move very much. It's pretty still. Tidal, but even so, it's pretty still.
It does make sense though, because I mean, at least if, in my opinion, if we're doing it correctly, we're trying to recreate nature within a glass box, which itself isn't natural. But freshwater, for the most part, many areas are going to have little to no actual ebb or flow to them. They're perfectly still. Like I said, growing up on Lake Champlain, you see that if there's no wind, the water's not moving. Whereas the ocean has its own tide, it has its own constant movement. So it would make sense that to promote the right bacteria, you need something.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So it's going to be great fun. Well, listen, I'm enormously excited about you coming to Florida. You're going to be a long drive for me, but I'm going to get out and see you once you get set up, and we'll get together and do some things.
Sounds like a plan. I'm excited.
Good. And I'm so delighted you came up.
Yes. We've only been talking about it for 3 months now.
Oh, no. I know.
I do appreciate it though. Ooh, well, I have you, and there's a few minutes. I do kind of an odd mix for my base substrate layer. I use non-scented or unscented non-clumping kitty litter, which is just clay, worm castings, a little bit of crushed lava rock, just because the texture is good for plant roots. And I do activated charcoal little pieces within, and then I cap it with sand. And I find that the bacterial bloom you get initially with the ammonia spike from the worm castings is massive, but within 2 days, it's pretty much dissipated because of the charcoal.
How much sand do you cap with?
I do at least an inch more than I do on the base layer. So it's usually 2 to 3 inches of sand to a couple inches of the substrate.
How deep is your base layer?
Like
1 inch, 2 inch?
3 at least.
Oh, really?
Probably 4. Yeah, I do twice. I like to do it based on the bottom lip of the tank. I'll do twice the width of the bottom lip. So yeah, it's usually, I mean, I'm looking at one right now that's 4 inches. So
I do a lot. I do. The difference with my mixture is I do a lot of humic substance. I do like peat moss. I do cow manure. I do potting soil. And then I'll put a lot of chemicals in it including worm castings and, oh golly, iron oxide.
Mhm.
Uh,
I should note that for higher pH, I will add argonite or crushed coral, and for lower pH, I will add some like peat and things like that. But just that base mix. My question to you is: those tanks compared to any other mix I've used, combination through the years, the cycle I get out of that is so stable. You could drop 50 fish in a 20 high, and it'd be fine. You won't even see cloudiness in the water. Do you think it's because of the combination of that initial ammonia spike producing a stronger bacterial colony? Because that's always been my theory, and I have no idea. It's just anecdotal.
well, part of what's happening, well, let's see now. You're doing a much deeper uh, soil bed or deep bed than I am. I do maximum 1 inch, but then I'm doing a lot more humus than you are. You're doing more stable, like clay, for example. Oregonite, those are very, very stable and don't have the same kind of activity that humic substances will. So I can make the tank explode if I put 3 inches of that in, even if I keep it with 3 inches of sand. So we're doing different formulas that are, I'm sure, arriving at exactly the same place. I found the same thing. I do not get initial ammonia spike, partly because I'm working really hard to keep all that substrate down in the substrate. So my sand cap is capping the dirt. It's holding it down and keeping it from having much contact with the water. So I get very little, if any, intrusion from it. With the clay, you're going to get more because it breaks down more and it's a finer material. Clay is about the finest material you can put in a tank. It's like microscopically fine.
Yes.
Which is why it packs so tight and why it has to be broken up like into a kitty litter form for the roots to be able to penetrate it. A solid block of clay, roots can't penetrate. So what I recommend in my systems is liquidizing the clay, putting it in water, turning it into mud, and mixing it in with humic substance in order to make all of it, because it's very, very high in minerals. Clay is a wonderful thing for plants, but they've got to be able to access it, and they really can't unless it's mixed in better.
It's also fantastically replenishable because it's so porous. So if you're doing liquid fertilizer in the tank, even though it's in the water column, it will get absorbed and like held in the clay itself, which is nice.
Yeah, we need to coordinate some on this. I'm interested because we're essentially arriving at the same place, but coming at it from two different directions. And I've really not done much at all with kitty litter. I've been aware of it for a long time, simply have not incorporated it. There's some other elements too.
When I first got in the hobby in the late 90s, it's what everyone was using. Everyone was using it. And back then, they didn't care if it was scented or not, just non-clumping. That's all that mattered.
Funny, yeah. Nice. Amber, thank you.
Yes, I appreciate you having me up. It's very fun to pick your brain. And I think just on that note real quick, because it's almost done, I think that's kind of what's so fun about the hobby is talking to somebody else who's in it and seeing how they do something and going, hey, it's kind of similar to how I'm doing it, but not really the same. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting how there's a million different ways to end up with the same result in the aquarium hobby.
And so many different directions to go in with it. You know, all of the fish you've worked with are fish that I really cherish, that are just really important fish to me. So I'm real excited about that. I ran into some Ansorgi today. I'm going to try to get some Ansorchium. Tina Poma probably. We'll see. There are a couple of more rare. There's a micro Tina Poma I'd like to get if it's available. But that's an African fish with very different requirements.
Mhm. Most of the African species, despite coming from the same area, have weirdly different requirements.
Charlene Heyman says it'll be 1 week tomorrow that I converted my tank to the father fish method, and I'm amazed at what I'm seeing. I started a jar of creek stuff on my window ledge and seeing new life. I did a challenge a while back to ask people to create what I call a resurrection jar, where you go out in the creek and get a handful of mud, throw it in the jar, and put it on the window ledge for no less than 1 month. And of course, all kinds of things grow up in it. So that has helped a lot of people realize that they can accomplish that in their tank. They can get that kind of microfauna going in their tank to feed their nano fish.
When I first started breeding bettas, I was doing it with the guidance of the gentleman who owns the only fish store in the state, and he breds guppies. So the first year of breeding bettas was basically me killing them and then figuring out if I took a jar of pond water and put leftover veggies from dinner, like some boiled yellow squash or whatever, into it and left it for a week, I had food. And that's when I stopped. Finally, it took about 2 years of breeding bettas to finally raise up fry to any size of adult.
Huh.
Because
Neat.
foods were not available.
Charlene He-Man. Telling me how to pronounce her name. Thank you, Charlene. Charlene He-Man. Thank you for that. All right. We got to go. We're running over. I'm having a staff meeting starting momentarily over on Discord with my leadership team. Leah's back to say goodbye.
Hello.
Hello.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Oh, he's ridiculous.
Thank you, Amber.
Thank
Love
you for having
you.
me.
You bet. Looking forward to you getting down here. We'll have fun. Introduce you to a bunch of fish people. We got a lot of fish people down here.
I know. I'm so excited for it.
Let's see. We'll get Lee's song back up. We can do that. All righty. Kenny is here. Hey, Kenny.
Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about